The galaxy had been in turmoil for as long as anyone could remember. Hundreds of different species, each with their own ambitions and pride, fought endlessly for control of the stars. What started as small disputes over territory had grown into a full-scale war that consumed the entire galaxy. Entire planets were laid to waste, their once thriving cities reduced to rubble. Fleets of massive starships clashed in the dark, cold vacuum of space, leaving trails of destruction behind them. For the most part, humanity had watched from the sidelines. Earth was far from the central hubs of the galaxy, tucked away in a quiet corner of space. Humans had long known about the wider universe and the powerful alien civilizations that ruled it, but they had chosen to keep to themselves. They were aware that their technology wasn't as advanced as many of the alien species. Human starships were smaller, less powerful, and lacked the sophisticated weapons that other species used. But humanity had something else, something that many species didn't quite understand yet. The war had started with a spark between two powerful alien empires, the Varrock and the Drath. The Varrock were a warrior species, known for their brute strength and fearlessness in battle. The Drath, on the other hand, relied on their advanced technology and cunning strategies to outsmart their enemies. When these two forces clashed, the rest of the galaxy was quickly pulled into the conflict, forced to choose sides or be destroyed. Over time, the war spread to more and more star systems. Dozens of other species got involved, each hoping to gain something from the chaos. Some fought for power, others for survival. Some species even fought just to settle old grudges that had been simmering for centuries. In the end, it didn't matter why they fought. The galaxy was now in a state of constant war, and no one could escape it. The Coalition, a group of species united for peace, tried to stop the fighting. They believed in diplomacy, in solving problems through talks and treaties, but their efforts were in vain. The more they tried to bring peace, the more the warring factions ignored them. The Varrock and Drath didn't care about peace, they only wanted victory. And so, the war continued to rage on, year after year, with no end in sight. Through all of this, humans remained neutral. They watched the battles from a distance, unwilling to risk their place in the galaxy. Humanity had its own problems to deal with after all. Earth was still recovering from its own wars, and the human race was focused on rebuilding its home planet. They knew that if they entered the galactic conflict, they would be seen as weak, unprepared for the brutality of alien warfare. But as the years passed, things began to change. The Coalition, once a symbol of hope, was losing ground. More and more species turned their backs on peace, either joining the fight or being crushed under the weight of the warring empires. The Varrock and Drath grew stronger with every passing day, their influence spreading like a virus across the stars. It became clear that the galaxy was heading towards a dark future, one where only the strongest would survive. The Coalition was desperate. Their armies were losing battle after battle, and their fleets were no match for the Varrock and Drath. They needed help from anyone who could turn the tide. And so, reluctantly, they turned to humanity. The humans were not known for their military might, but they had a reputation for being resilient, clever, and unpredictable. The Coalition hoped that these traits would be enough to make a difference in the war. The rest of the galaxy scoffed at the idea. Humans, in the galactic war, they would be crushed, just like so many others before them. No one believed that humans could turn the tide. But the Coalition was out of options. They reached out to Earth, offering them a chance to join the war and prove themselves to the galaxy. Humanity stood at a crossroads. They had always been cautious, choosing peace over war whenever possible. But now, the galaxy was calling on them to step up, to take their place among the stars as warriors. The question remained, would humanity answer the call? The war wasn't going well for the Coalition. It seemed that no matter how hard they tried, the Varrock and Drath empires were always one step ahead. The Coalition's fleets were spread too thin, constantly moving from one battle to the next, trying to plug the gaps. Every day, more planets fell to the enemy, and hope was beginning to fade. The leaders of the coalition knew that they needed help fast. But who could they turn to? At this point, most species had either joined the Varrock or the Drath, or they had been crushed by them. The coalition, which was once a symbol of peace and cooperation, was now seen as weak. Few species were willing to stand by their side. Many had chosen to sit back and watch, hoping to stay neutral and avoid the destruction that had consumed the galaxy. In the Grand Hall of the Coalition's capital, the leaders of several species gathered. The room was filled with tension. Tall, strange-looking aliens stood around a massive table, discussing the situation in hurried, nervous voices. General Tarak, a fierce-looking reptilian leader, slammed his clawed hand on the table, his voice booming across the room. "We can't keep fighting like this. The Varrock are too strong, and the Drath's technology is impossible to match. We need more ships, more soldiers, something. If we don't act soon, the coalition will be nothing more than a memory." "We've already called on all our allies," replied Counselor Vin, a small, insectoid creature with a calm, yet worried tone. "There's no one left. Every species that could help is already either fighting or refusing to join." General Tarak snarled, his sharp teeth flashing in frustration. "Then we're doomed." But then, a voice from the back of the room spoke up. "What about the humans?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward Ambassador Drix, a slender figure with glowing blue eyes. His suggestion hung in the air, and for a moment, no one responded. The humans? It sounded ridiculous. Counselor Vin shook his head. Humans. They're barely a part of the galactic community. Their technology is outdated, their fleets are small, and they've never been involved in any large-scale conflict. How could they possibly help us? They may not have the same technology as the Varrock or Drath. Drix continued, stepping forward. But humans are resourceful. They've survived their own wars on Earth. They're fighters, and more importantly, they think in ways we don't. They could surprise the Varrock and Drath. And right now, we need surprises. Some of the leaders murmured in agreement, while others looked doubtful. General Tarak wasn't convinced. Humans, we'd be putting our fate in the hands of a species that hasn't even seen real war. They won't last a week. But the desperate situation forced them to consider every option, no matter how unlikely. Ambassador Drix laid out his plan. "We don't need the humans to win the war for us. We need them to turn the tide, to shake up the battlefield. The Varrock and Drath won't expect it. We offer the humans advanced technology in exchange for their help. If they can make even a small impact, it might be enough to give us the advantage we need." The room was divided. Some were hopeful, thinking that maybe this crazy idea could work. Others, like General Tarak, were still skeptical. But after hours of debate, the coalition had no choice. They had tried everything else. Now, they were out of time and out of options. The decision was made. They would send a message to Earth, offering an alliance. The coalition would give humans access to advanced technology in exchange for their support in the war. It was a risky gamble, but it was their only hope. The message was sent through a secure channel, straight to the leaders of Earth. Back on Earth, the human leaders gathered to discuss the strange request. The coalition was asking for their help in a war that humanity had avoided for years. Earth had stayed neutral, believing that the war between the alien empires was not their fight. But now, they were being called upon to step into a conflict that spanned the entire galaxy. Many on Earth were hesitant. They knew that their fleets were not as powerful as the alien armies. Humans had advanced quickly over the years, but they were still far behind in terms of space combat. But others saw this as an opportunity to prove that humanity could stand with the greatest species in the galaxy. In the end, Earth's leaders made the decision that would change everything. Humanity would join the war, not as a last resort, but as a force that could tip the balance. They knew it would be dangerous, and many doubted if they could truly make a difference. But humans had always been known for defying the odds. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The message from the Coalition arrived on Earth, and it shocked the human leaders. For years, humanity had watched the galaxy tear itself apart. They had seen the destruction, the endless battles, and the suffering caused by the war between the Varrock and the Drath. The thought of joining that conflict was something Earth had always avoided. Humans had enough problems of their own, rebuilding their society after their own global wars. But now, the message was clear. The galaxy needed their help. The Coalition was desperate. In a secure room, deep inside a government building, the leaders of Earth gathered. It was a mix of military generals, politicians, and scientists. The air was heavy with tension as they all sat around a large table, the Coalition's request for help displayed on a screen in front of them. No one spoke at first. The decision they were about to make would change the future of humanity forever. General Carter, a tall, stern-looking man with years of experience in Earth's military, was the first to break the silence. "They want us to join their war," he said, his voice steady but filled with concern. "We've avoided it for this long. Why should we get involved now?" "We have to consider the bigger picture," replied President Harper, the leader of the United Earth government. She leaned forward, her hands clasped together. "If the Coalition falls, the Varrock and Drath will take over the galaxy. We may think we're safe here on Earth, but if they win, they'll come for us eventually." The room was silent again, as everyone considered her words. Earth had been lucky to stay out of the war so far, but that luck wouldn't last forever. If the Varrock or Drath decided to turn their attention to humanity, Earth wouldn't stand a chance on its own. "But are we ready for this?" asked Dr. Michaels, a scientist who had been studying the alien species for years. "Our technology is nowhere near as advanced as theirs. The Coalition is offering us some of their tech, but will that be enough? We're still behind." "That's true," General Carter agreed. "Our fleets are smaller, our ships less powerful. But what we do have is experience and strategy. Humans have fought countless wars throughout history. We've learned how to adapt, how to use our brains as much as our weapons. That's something the Varrock and Drath may not expect. We also have our spirit," President Harper added. "Humans never give up. We've faced extinction before, and we survived. This war will test us, but I believe we can make a difference." There were still doubts, but slowly, the mood in the room began to shift. They all knew the risks, but there was a sense of duty that hung over them. If they didn't step up, who would? The Coalition was offering them a chance to make a real impact in the galaxy, to show that humanity could stand shoulder to shoulder with the most powerful species. It was an opportunity they couldn't ignore. "Think about what this means for our future," President Harper continued. "If we join the war and help the Coalition win, we'll be respected throughout the galaxy. We'll no longer be seen as the newcomers, the weak species hiding on the edge of space. This is our chance to prove what humanity is capable of." After hours of debate, the decision was made. Humanity would join the war. It wasn't an easy choice, but it felt like the right one. They couldn't sit back and watch the galaxy fall apart any longer. They had to act, not just for the Coalition, but for their own survival. The message was sent back to the Coalition. "We accept." With that single decision, the fate of humanity was set on a new course. The Coalition responded quickly, sending plans for the advanced technology they had promised. Human scientists and engineers immediately got to work, adapting the alien designs to fit Earth's needs. New starships were being built, armed with powerful weapons that humans had never even imagined before. But the technology was only part of the equation. Human soldiers were trained in alien combat tactics, preparing for battles in space, unlike anything they had ever experienced. There was fear, of course. No one knew how the Varrock or Drath would react when they saw humans on the battlefield. But there was also a growing sense of excitement. Humanity was about to step into the biggest conflict the galaxy had ever seen, and they were ready to prove themselves. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. They were seen as weak, insignificant. But now, humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were truly made of. The war was about to change, and no one, not even the Varrock and Drath, was prepared for what was coming. The day had finally arrived. Humanity's first battle in the Galactic War was about to begin. The human fleet, newly equipped with advanced coalition technology, was ready to make its debut. Nervous energy buzzed through the ranks of the soldiers and crew members aboard the ships. For many, this was their first real taste of interstellar combat, and the stakes were incredibly high. On the bridge of the flagship, the U.S. Resolve, Captain Jameson stood with a stern expression. He looked out at the vast expanse of space through the viewing window. The Coalition had provided them with intelligence that a Varrock outpost was stationed in the nearby system, and this would be the first target of their new alliance. "Remember," Captain Jameson said to his crew, his voice firm but reassuring, "we're not just fighting for ourselves today. We're fighting for the future of the galaxy. Stay sharp, follow the plan, and we'll show them what humans are capable of." The crew nodded, a mix of excitement and fear in their eyes. They had trained for this moment, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of battle. The human fleet, consisting of several sleek new warships and a few older models upgraded with Coalition tech, was spread out, ready to engage. As they approached the Varrock outpost, the tension was palpable. The Varrock had been known for their aggressive tactics and powerful weaponry. The Coalition's intel had indicated that the outpost was heavily defended, but it was a critical target. If they could take it down, it would be a significant blow to the Varrock's operations. "Enemy ships detected," the sensor officer reported. "They're closing in fast." Captain Jameson took a deep breath. "All hands to battle stations. Engage the enemy." The human fleet moved into position, their new weapons systems humming to life. The Varrock ships, large and intimidating, appeared on the screen, their weapons already charging. The Varrock crew, seeing the human ships for the first time, were likely underestimating them, just as many in the galaxy had. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson. The battle began with a barrage of laser fire from the Varrock ships. The human ships, agile and quick, darted around the incoming fire, their advanced shields holding strong. The human crew used the new Coalition tech to their advantage, firing back with precision and power. The first few minutes were chaotic. The space around them lit up with explosions and flashes of light. Human ships worked together, moving in coordinated patterns that confused the Varrock. The new tactics, developed by human strategists, were unlike anything the Varrock had faced before. "We've breached their outer defenses," shouted Lieutenant Evans, his voice filled with excitement. "Prepare to move in on the main station." The human fleet pressed the attack, their ships weaving through the Varrock's defenses with surprising agility. The Varrock, initially confident, were caught off guard by the human speed and coordination. The advanced technology provided by the Coalition gave the humans an edge, but it was their ingenuity and teamwork that truly made the difference. As the battle continued, the Varrock ships began to falter. The human fleet targeted key systems on the Varrock outpost, knocking out power and communications. The Varrock, struggling to adapt to the unexpected human tactics, were forced into a defensive position. "Direct hit on the Varrock command center," reported Ensign Reed. "They're losing control of their ships." Captain Jameson watched with a mix of pride and disbelief as the Varrock outpost was slowly dismantled. The human fleet was holding its ground, and the Varrock forces were retreating. It was an impressive display of human skill and resilience. The final blow came when a coordinated strike from several human ships took out the outpost's central reactor. The explosion was massive, and the Varrock outpost was left in ruins. The remaining Varrock ships scattered, fleeing the scene. As the battle came to an end, cheers erupted on the human ships. The crew celebrated their hard-earned victory, their spirits high. They had proven themselves on their first real test, and it was a significant achievement. The Varrock had been defeated, and humanity had made a powerful statement. Captain Jameson looked out at the remnants of the Varrock outpost, a satisfied smile on his face. "Well done, everyone. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do." The battle was over, but it was just the beginning of humanity's role in the Galactic War. The victory boosted their confidence and showed that they were a force to be reckoned with. As the human fleet prepared for their next mission, they knew they had taken a crucial step in turning the tide of the war. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready to meet the challenge head-on. The news of the successful mission spread quickly, and the reaction was one of shock and admiration. Humanity had not only proven that their first victory was not a fluke, but they had also shown that they were a serious force to be reckoned with. The tide of the war was beginning to shift, and the galaxy was starting to take notice of the new players on the field. Captain Jameson and his crew celebrated their success, but they knew the war was far from over. They were determined to keep up the momentum and continue to fight for their place in the galaxy. The surprise victories were a testament to human resilience and ingenuity, and they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy was abuzz with talk of humanity's recent victories. News of the surprising successes of the human fleet spread quickly, reaching every corner of the war-torn expanse. The Varrock and Drath were rattled by the unexpected strength and tactics of the new player in the Galactic War. What had once seemed like a distant threat was now becoming a serious concern for the powerful empires. On the Varrock homeworld, the High Command was in an uproar. The loss of the outpost and the destroyed Drath convoy were significant blows. The Varrock, known for their arrogance and dominance, were now facing a new kind of fear. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake was costing them dearly. "Prepare the council," General Korek, a formidable Varrock leader with scales that gleamed darkly, ordered. His voice was low but filled with anger. "We need to discuss our next move. The humans are proving to be more dangerous than we anticipated." In the council chamber, a group of Varrock generals and advisors gathered. The room was filled with tension as they reviewed the latest reports. Holographic projections of the recent battles flickered in front of them, showing the damage inflicted by the human fleet. "We cannot allow this to continue," General Korek growled. "If the humans keep up this pace, they could turn the tide of the war in favor of the coalition. We need to find a way to neutralize them before it's too late." "The problem is," an advisor spoke up, "the humans are using tactics and technology we haven't encountered before. Their ships are fast, and their strategies are unpredictable. We need to adjust our approach if we're going to counter them effectively." Meanwhile, on the Drath homeworld, the mood was equally grim. The Drath were furious about the loss of their convoy. It had been a critical supply line, and its destruction had left their front lines vulnerable. The Drath High Command met in a dimly lit chamber, their sharp eyes flickering with frustration. "Who are these humans to challenge us?" demanded Commander Xaler, his voice harsh and full of rage. "We must retaliate and make them regret their interference." The Drath leaders knew they had to act quickly. They began plotting a new strategy, one that would aim to deal a decisive blow to the human fleet and restore their dominance. They planned a major offensive, hoping to catch the humans off guard and prove once and for all that their recent victories were nothing more than a fluke. Back on Earth, the human leaders were watching the developments with growing concern. The recent victories had boosted morale, but they also brought a new level of danger. The Varrock and Drath were not going to take their losses lying down. The next battles were expected to be even more intense. In the command center of the U.S. Resolve, Captain Jameson and his officers were in a strategy meeting. The atmosphere was tense as they discussed the intelligence reports about the enemy's plans. "We've received word that both the Varrock and Drath are mobilizing for a major counteroffensive," Captain Jameson said, his expression serious. "They're planning something big, and we need to be prepared." Lieutenant Evans looked worried. "How are we supposed to handle a full-scale assault from both sides? Our fleet is strong, but we're still outnumbered." Captain Jameson nodded. "We need to focus on our strengths. We've been effective using hit-and-run tactics and exploiting enemy weaknesses. We'll continue to use these strategies, but with increased caution. We must also work closely with our coalition allies to ensure we're not isolated. The crew began to prepare for the anticipated offensive, their minds racing with strategies and countermeasures. They knew that the Varrock and Drath would not underestimate them again. The fear of a combined assault was real, and it was something they needed to address head-on. As the days passed, the tension grew. The Varrock and Drath began to move their fleets into position, readying for their counterattack. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what the next chapter in the war would bring. For humanity, the growing fear was a reminder of the high stakes involved. The recent victories had proven their worth, but the real test was yet to come. They would need to be at their best to survive the impending onslaught and continue their fight for a place in the galaxy. The sense of fear and anticipation was palpable. The Varrock and Drath were rallying their forces, and the human fleet was bracing for a battle that could change everything. The galaxy was on the brink of a new, even more intense phase of the war, and everyone knew that the coming days would be crucial. The galaxy was in a state of flux. After their recent victories, humanity had proven their strength and resilience. The Varrock and Drath had been pushed back, but the fight was far from over. As the war continued, it became increasingly clear that humanity was emerging as a new force to be reckoned with. In the heart of the Coalition's command center, representatives from various species were gathered for a crucial meeting. The mood was tense, but there was also a sense of anticipation. The recent successes of the human fleet had caught everyone's attention, and now they were being asked to take on a more prominent role in the Coalition's strategy. President Harper stood before the gathered leaders, her face serious but filled with determination. The recent victories of the human fleet have shown that they are not only capable but also incredibly effective in this war. It is clear that humanity's involvement has shifted the balance of power. Admiral Kale, a respected leader from one of the Coalition's member species, nodded in agreement. The humans have demonstrated not only bravery but also strategic brilliance. Their tactics and technology have turned the tide in several key battles. It's time we recognize their contributions and involve them more directly in our leadership. The idea was groundbreaking. Until now, the Coalition's leadership had been dominated by the older, more established species. Humanity was new to the galactic stage, but their recent successes had earned them a seat at the table. This was an opportunity for humans to take on a leadership role in the Coalition and influence the direction of the war. Humanity has earned our respect, Admiral Kale continued, but with increased responsibility comes increased scrutiny. We need to ensure that our collaboration is not just effective, but also beneficial for all parties involved. President Harper addressed the room. We are ready to take on this responsibility. We understand the weight of leadership and are committed to working closely with our allies to achieve our shared goals. Our aim is to contribute our skills and knowledge to this alliance and help bring an end to this war. The leaders discussed the specifics of the new arrangement. Humanity would be given a more prominent role in strategic planning and decision-making. They would also be tasked with leading joint operations and coordinating efforts with other species. It was a significant step forward and a recognition of humanity's growing importance in the galactic conflict. Back on Earth, the announcement was met with a mixture of pride and responsibility. The news that humanity would be taking on a leadership role in the Coalition was celebrated as a major achievement. It was a testament to the progress they had made and a sign that they were becoming an integral part of the galactic war effort. Captain Jameson and his crew were both excited and apprehensive about the new responsibilities. Their recent successes had put them in the spotlight, and now they were expected to lead joint operations and work closely with other species. It was a challenge, but one they were eager to take on. In the command center of the U.S. Resolve, Captain Jameson gathered his senior officers. We've been given a significant role in the Coalition's leadership. It's a huge responsibility, but it's also a chance to shape the future of this war. We need to be prepared for the increased pressure and ensure that our actions reflect the values and goals of the Coalition. Lieutenant Evans, always ready for action, nodded in agreement. We've proven ourselves in battle, but now it's time to show that we can lead as well. We'll need to coordinate with our allies and plan our operations carefully. The human fleet began working closely with representatives from other species, sharing intelligence and coordinating strategies. The new leadership role brought with it new challenges, but it also provided opportunities to make a real impact on the war. Humanity's voice was now a significant part of the decision-making process, and their influence was growing. As the coalition's strategy began to take shape, humanity's contributions were evident. Their innovative tactics and willingness to collaborate were making a difference. The galaxy was starting to see that humanity was not just a participant in the war, but a key player in its outcome. The recognition of humanity's leadership was more than just a victory. It was a turning point in the war. It marked a shift in the balance of power and highlighted the importance of unity and collaboration among the coalition's member species. As the war continued, humanity embraced their new role with determination and commitment. They knew that their actions would have a lasting impact on the future of the galaxy. With their new responsibilities came new challenges, but humanity was ready to meet them head-on and continue their fight for a better future. The time had come for the final push. After months of intense battles and strategic planning, the coalition forces, now led by humanity, were ready for a decisive strike against the Varrock and Drath. The goal was to deliver a blow so significant that it would force both empires to surrender or at least retreat and negotiate peace. In the command center of the U.S. Resolve, Captain Jameson and his team were finalizing the details of the operation. The stakes were incredibly high, and the pressure was palpable. The coalition had assembled a massive fleet, with ships from various species working together in a unified force. Their target was a heavily fortified Varrock stronghold located in a key strategic system. "All right, team," Captain Jameson said, his voice steady but filled with intensity. "This is it. The final strike will determine the outcome of the war. We've planned this carefully, and we have the element of surprise on our side. Our goal is to cripple the Varrock and Drath forces and force them to the negotiating table." Lieutenant Evans, always at the forefront, glanced at the holographic display showing the enemy's defenses. "We've got the coordinates for the Varrock stronghold. The enemy is heavily fortified, but our new tactics and combined firepower should give us the edge." The plan was ambitious. The coalition fleet would split into two main groups. One group would launch a direct assault on the Varrock stronghold, drawing attention and firepower away from the second group. The second group, led by human ships, would carry out a flanking maneuver to strike at the weak points of the Varrock defenses and target critical infrastructure. As the fleet approached the target system, tension was high. The Varrock and Drath had been preparing for this confrontation, and their defenses were formidable. But the coalition forces had been planning for months, and they were ready to use every advantage they had. "Prepare for engagement," Captain Jameson ordered. "All ships, execute the plan on my mark." The fleet moved into position, their ships aligning in formation. The initial barrage of fire came from the first group, hitting the Varrock stronghold with intense, coordinated strikes. The Varrock, caught off guard by the sudden assault, scrambled to respond. The massive explosions and flashing lights of battle filled the void of space. As the first group kept the Varrock occupied, the second group, including the U.S. Resolve, began their flanking maneuver. The human ships moved swiftly, using their agility and advanced stealth systems to avoid detection. They approached the Varrock stronghold from an unexpected angle, targeting the less protected areas of the enemy's defenses. The battle was fierce. The Varrock and Drath fought back with everything they had, but the coalition forces were relentless. The human fleet's new tactics and technologies proved to be a game-changer. The Varrock's defenses were overwhelmed, and their command structure began to crumble under the pressure. Direct hits on the Varrock command center. Lieutenant Evans reported, his voice filled with excitement. "Their defenses are falling apart." Captain Jameson kept a close eye on the battle, coordinating with Allied forces and making real-time adjustments to their strategy. The coordinated attacks were having the desired effect. The Varrock and Drath forces were in disarray, their response increasingly desperate. With their defenses breached and their command center in ruins, the Varrock and Drath began to retreat. The coalition fleet pressed their advantage, targeting key systems and ensuring that the enemy's ability to regroup was severely diminished. As the battle came to a close, the coalition fleet stood victorious. The Varrock stronghold lay in ruins, and the Drath forces were scattered. The final strike had been a success, and the impact on the war was significant. The aftermath of the battle was filled with relief and celebration. The coalition forces had achieved a decisive victory, and the path to peace negotiations was now clearer. The Varrock and Drath had been dealt a blow they could not ignore, and the galaxy's balance of power had shifted. Captain Jameson and his crew were celebrated as heroes. Their leadership and bravery had played a crucial role in the victory. The coalition was now in a strong position to negotiate peace and work towards rebuilding the galaxy. The final strike had been a turning point in the war, and humanity's role had proven to be vital. The coalition forces had demonstrated their strength and unity, and the galaxy was on the brink of a new era. With the Varrock and Drath finally subdued, the focus could shift to restoring peace and ensuring that the lessons of the war were not forgotten. As the coalition fleet regrouped and prepared for the next steps, there was a sense of hope and determination. The final strike had shown what humanity and their allies could achieve when working together, and it set the stage for a brighter future for the galaxy. The galaxy had been forever altered by the recent conflict. The final strike against the Varrock and Drath had not only secured a decisive victory, but also reshaped the balance of power among the galaxy's major players. Humanity, once a minor player in the cosmic stage, had emerged as a transformative force, changing the course of history. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was abuzz with news and speculation. The Varrock and Drath, once dominant and feared, were now forced to confront a new reality. The coalition, now significantly influenced by humanity's leadership, was moving quickly to capitalize on the victory and rebuild. The central hub of the coalition, a massive space station orbiting a neutral planet, became the epicenter of new diplomatic efforts. Leaders from various species gathered to discuss the terms of peace and the future of the galaxy. President Harper and Captain Jameson, representing humanity, were at the forefront of these crucial negotiations. Inside the Grand Conference Chamber, President Harper addressed the Assembly. The recent victories have shown that unity and cooperation can achieve what once seemed impossible. It is time for us to build a new future, one where conflicts are resolved through dialogue rather than warfare. Humanity is committed to working with all of you to create a lasting peace. The room erupted in applause. The coalition members were impressed by humanity's leadership and vision. The successful final strike had not only demonstrated military might, but also brought about a shift in diplomatic dynamics. Humanity's role was now seen as pivotal in shaping the future of the galaxy. Captain Jameson stood by President Harper, his face reflecting a mix of pride and determination. We have proven ourselves in battle, but the real work begins now. It is up to us to guide the coalition towards a peaceful and prosperous future. Our goal is to ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated and that all species can coexist harmoniously. As the peace talks progressed, the coalition focused on several key issues. The Varrock and Drath were to be held accountable for their actions, but there was also a strong emphasis on reconciliation and rebuilding. The coalition aimed to integrate the Varrock and Drath into the new order, ensuring that they were part of the solution rather than the problem. Humanity's influence extended beyond diplomacy. The technological advancements and innovative tactics developed by the human fleet were now being shared with other coalition members. The exchange of knowledge and technology helped to strengthen the coalition and prepare for any future threats. The changes were not limited to the political and military spheres. The cultural impact of humanity's rise was significant. Stories of bravery and resilience inspired many, and the idea of human ingenuity and cooperation became a symbol of hope for the galaxy. Human art, science and philosophy began to influence and enrich the diverse cultures of the coalition. On Earth, the mood was one of celebration and reflection. The conflict had been arduous and costly, but the outcome was a testament to human perseverance and leadership. The victory had united humanity in a common cause and shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, change was possible. Captain Jameson and his crew returned to the U.S. Resolve, now a symbol of the new era. The ship was not just a military vessel, but also a beacon of progress and collaboration. The crew, once focused solely on battle, now had a broader mission: to serve as ambassadors of peace and advocates for the new galactic order. As the coalition worked towards rebuilding and integrating the Varrock and Drath, the focus shifted to creating a sustainable and inclusive future. The lessons learned from the war were applied to ensure that conflicts were resolved through cooperation and understanding. The galaxy began to heal, and the scars of war started to fade. Humanity had changed everything. They had transformed from a fledgling power into a leading force in galactic affairs. Their impact was felt across the galaxy, from the highest councils to the smallest communities. The new era was marked by hope, unity, and the promise of a better future. The galaxy was on a new path, guided by the principles of collaboration and mutual respect. Humanity's journey had been marked by trials and triumphs, but it had led to a profound transformation. The final chapter of the war had been written, and the new story of the galaxy was just beginning. With their newfound influence, humanity was committed to ensuring that the future was brighter and more inclusive. The changes they had brought about were a testament to their strength and vision, and they were ready to lead the galaxy into an era of peace and prosperity.